My name is Pratibha Sen and I head the Australia Client Relations in IDP India. IDP is the world's leader in international student services, and we bring to you another exciting episode of IDP Study Abroad Insights. So keep watching this space for more updates. Welcome to another new series of Study Abroad Insights with IDP. In today's episode, we are going to discuss study in Australia. Australia is known to be a beautiful and vibrant country. It's also a home to one of the world's leading education institutions and attracting students from far and wide as international students. In conversation today, we have with us Ms. Alicia Shekhar, who is the Deputy Director at University of South Australia. And we also have Prithika. Prithika is a student aspiring to study in Australia and with us to discuss some questions about what students feel before they start their journey for Australia. Hi Alicia, how was your flight to India?
It was great, thank you. It was quite long and we got in quite late, but I think waking up in the morning and having masala tea and dosa was, made it all worthwhile. So
awesome. So you look after the operations and the admissions at University of South Australia. So you've met a lot of Indian students?
We do. We have quite a large Indian population at the University of South Australia.
That's great. Hi Prithika, how are you doing?
I'm great.
Thank you for joining us on this show to let us know what are the concerns students face when they start preparing for Australia.
My pleasure.
Alicia, Australia is a very popular destination. What are the top 3 reasons why students choose Australia?
I think the best reason is the quality of education in Australia. So Australian institutions are ranked amongst the world's best, and the degrees are globally recognised, which students really appreciate the employability after they complete their degree. The second reason I would have to say is the high standard of living in Australia. That really comes down to safety for the students. I think the diversity and the multicultural aspects of Australia, and it's quite welcoming to international students. And I'd have to say the third reason is really about the work rights for students. So they have the opportunity to work while they're studying, and there are also special options for them after they've completed to get more relevant work experience in Australia.
Prithika, when did you decide to study abroad and what were the reasons?
Well, when I just passed out from my university, I was quite certain that I wanted to do my master's somewhere abroad, just for the reason that the rate of global exposure is many folds than an Indian university. So I finished my bachelor's, joined as a management trainee with a startup in India. Right now, yes, I'm planning to go abroad and study.
Great. So why Australia?
Well, I think she's covered up most of my reasons, but yes, one, the diversity in the country is, I think, really great. It's really accepting, it's really encouraging to see that so many countries, so many kinds of people reside in the same country.
So Australia, Alicia's ranked very high in its livability index. Can you tell us why?
I think that really comes back to the high standard of living that we have in Australia. So we have some amazing landscapes in Australia, and we really enjoy getting outside and having a healthy and active lifestyle. So it's the beaches and it's the mountains and it's the fresh air that we have in Australia. And it also comes back to, as I said before, the safety and the quality of life in Australia.
Prithika, you made a very important decision of your life. When a student decides to study abroad, how does the student research about it?
Well, basically, of course, firstly, the students' main objective is to go and study. So first they look at the quality of education and the quality of the universities each country has. And secondly, they analyze the country as a whole, how friendly it is for immigrants, how accepting it is there, how safe it is. Is there a lot of crime rate going? Is there a lot of social abuse for students, international students? So yes, a lot of things goes on, but yes, firstly it is the standard of the university and the standard of the particular degree which they're looking for, and secondly it should be as a country, the social acceptability of that country.
From South Australia, And being in Adelaide, what would you say how unique Adelaide is in terms of a place where students can go and live and study?
The funny thing about Adelaide, it's known as the 20-minute city, so it's really easy to get around Australia, to get around Adelaide. So, 20 minutes to get to the beach and then 20 minutes to get to the mountains, which is actually amazing. So it's a major city and it's a capital city in Australia, so it's got everything that a major city has to offer, but it's got a real community feel about it as well. And it's just so easy to get around, which makes it so much easier for students.
As a student, there would be certain inhibitions that you have in your mind, certain questions about leaving your friends and family and going and studying abroad. So what are these concerns?
Well, firstly, my first concern was about the accommodation there, but of course I've researched online and how to go about it, so I'm right now quite comfortable with it. And for a fact that yes, we can also work while we can study, so I guess I should be able to cover my living expenses as well.
Alicia, Australia is known to be a more affordable option than many other destinations. So what is the average tuition fee and living cost for an international student, if you can share with us?
Sure. Yeah, you're completely correct. It is a affordable destination, especially when we're looking at some other destinations. And so for your annual tuition fees, you're looking at an average of 25,000 Australian dollars per year. And the tuition fees, this is really set by the Australian government and the Immigration Office, and this sits at $20,000 Australian dollars per year. But that's really dependent, on the student and the lifestyle that they live.
And what are the broad entry requirements for a student who's going there for an undergraduate or postgraduate qualification?
So for an undergraduate qualification, the students need to complete Year 12. There are no other exams that they need to sit. And we'll look at basically the top 4 subjects that they're completing, and we'll look at the percentage grade. So it is particular based on the program or the degree that they're going into. And for a postgraduate degree, they need successful completion of a 3-year undergraduate degree in order to meet the entry requirements.
There are 2 major intakes in Australia, which is February and July. Are all programs available across the sessions?
The majority of programs are available across both of the intakes, although some of the specialised degrees, especially programs around the health, where there's a lot of limited places sometimes, those degrees might only be available for 1 intake, and it's usually at the semester 1 intake.
So is the fees paid per intake in Australia?
Correct, yes. So you pay per semester, exactly.
At University of South Australia, for example, what would you say is the diversity and mix of international students, and how do you think this is an advantage for an Indian student going there?
The University of South Australia prides itself on its student diversity. We really like to recruit from a number of different countries because it's really important. Those students bring that cultural aspect to the University of South Australia and also to the community within Adelaide. And I think that's why the people of Adelaide really embrace the international students coming, because they bring so much culture. And we have a lot of community groups set up to support those students and from the cultures that they're coming, and to make them feel welcome within the community as well.
So Alicia, when a student applies to a university, what are the key documents which are essential that you require from them?
We try and keep it as simple as possible. We know it's quite a stressful process that students are going through, and we've moved a lot of those applications online to make it a lot easier. The most important documents are your academic documents, so your mark sheets and your transcripts and certificates. And the other area is English, so looking at your English ability, and if you've sat any English tests such as IELTS before, it's really important to provide that documentation.
How was the application for you, Pratika? Was it easy or challenging?
Well, it was quite hassle-free because I had chosen IDP as my counsellor, so they made it quite hassle-free. I just had to give my documents and I was done with it.
So when should a student ideally start?
Well, probably if you're looking for the July intake, probably you should start by December, mid-December, or at least by the mid of Jan.
Prithika, what are the reactions of your friends and family that you're going to Australia to study?
Well, they're very happy. They're very supportive, and they're really, encouraging and appreciative that I chose Australia, because when they personally researched about the country, they saw that it's quite, adaptable, quite welcoming for the immigrants.
Well, I know when Indian students are preparing for their visa and application, they're very busy and preoccupied. They often miss out the essential arrangements for pre-departure, for accommodation. So how do you think the university will be able to help them for pre-departure and also on arrival during the orientation?
Yeah, and universities understand this, so it's really important that we provide all of that information to students in different ways. So I know we send a lot of emails to the students outlining all the different steps that they need to go through to secure their accommodation and all the different options that they have. We also arrange airport pickup for students to ensure that as soon as they land in the country, they're greeted by someone welcoming to the country.
Is that free?
It is. It's a free service, and it just puts the students at ease when they know exactly what's going to happen as soon as they arrive in the country, and that will take them to their accommodation choice. And then it's really important for us to give the students information about orientation and what to expect in that first week as soon as they arrive in the country.
So, Prithika, what are the aspects that a student should be careful about when they're shortlisting their program or they're shortlisting their university?
Well, when one is shortlisting the university or the particular business school or any faculty, so obviously they should look at both the university rankings as well as the particular school or faculty rankings. And secondly, of course, the time and duration of the course. You should be able to give that much of time. You should be able to afford that much of duration of the course, because obviously that will include your living expenses as well. And we have to see the career outcome of the course as well, because obviously we are going there spending so much studying obviously to get employed, to earn money. So we have to see the acceptability, the employability of that particular course.
The accommodation for students, is it on campus or off campus?
There's a huge range of accommodation for students, and it does range from on-campus accommodation where it's fully catered, and so students have meals and everything provided to them. For those students who are a little bit more independent, there are other options for them, such as private rentals, and there's also apartments which are built just for student accommodation as well, where they can share it with other students to perhaps reduce the cost and the expense of studying in Australia.
Have you booked your accommodation?
Well, not yet, but yes, I will be booking a private shared accommodation.
Great, so you're already sorted what you want to do and where you want to live. Great. About students who are under 18, their parents who are concerned about especially where they will stay, what they will eat. So is there a separate care for under 18 students in Australia?
There is. So when a under 18 student gets a student visa, they have to have guardianship for that visa to be granted. So if a relative is not going to accompany that student to Australia, then the university actually has to take guardianship for that student and look after them while they're under 18. So the most common accommodation option for those students is homestay, where the students get to stay with an Australian family who look after that student and make sure that their welfare is taken care of while they're in Australia.
So is homestay more popular or rented accommodation?
It depends on the age group. So under 18, homestay is very popular, and it also allows students to really get that Australian experience by living with an Australian family. But those students who are a little bit older and perhaps a little bit more independent, the private rental and the share accommodation is really popular with those students.
Students and parents often wonder about the Indian festivals, Indian food. So how's the Indian community in Australia?
It really is a strong community in Australia, and as I mentioned before, we do have a lot of Indian students. It is the second biggest population in Australia for international students. So they've really embraced the culture there, and we have a lot of festivals. I know in Adelaide we're actually known as the festival city and the festival state, and there's a lot of multicultural festivals which celebrate all cultures and diversities, and I think at the food part really comes into it. Australians love Indian food, so we love to have a festival which really celebrates those cultures, and when we get the diversity of food. I know there are particular festivals, such as we celebrate Diwali in Australia. Yeah, so it's a really popular culture that we celebrate in Australia.
So what about safety and security of international students? That's another question which comes to mind.
Yeah, we take that very seriously. So safety on university campuses is very important, and we have a division which just looks after the security and safety of students. I know all institutions take that very seriously in Australia, and the University of South Australia, we actually have an app which is all around the safety. So students can download that app on their mobile phone, and it means that they're in quick and easy reach of our security team and our security office, and if they ever feel threatened or unsafe, or even if they're just finishing a lecture or a class a little bit late at night, they can contact the security team and they'll actually escort them to the car or to the bus, just to ensure that they get home safely and that they feel safe and comfortable while on campus.
And if a student has any concerns or needs to reach out on an emergency, what is the advice that you give to students?
Yeah, so the app is the best way, because they just have to touch one button on their phone and they're put through to the security office, who will then escalate it to the police if it needs to go any higher. Also, when we do our orientation with students, we also run through the best way to contact our emergency services as quickly as possible, just to ensure that all students are familiar with how to get in contact with somebody in an emergency.
And generally, Australia is perceived to be a very safe country. So if a student has experienced Australia, they can help other new students and telling them, where to be at what time and where not to be at what time.
Exactly, yes. So, it's very different for students coming from different cultures. It's very different in Australia. So we like to put international students who are coming in new to the university in touch with students who have already been there for, one semester or 2 semesters, and they can give them information about, what to expect and exactly, which buses to take and what are the best places to eat and which areas are safer than others.
About health insurance, when a student pays a tuition fee to the university before enrolling, an overseas health cover is included in it. So what is this overseas health cover and how does it protect a student?
Yes, so all students coming on a student visa to Australia have to have overseas student health cover, and that's very important because it makes sure that all of our students are covered when they come into Australia for any hospital or medical related requirements. So it ensures that there's no risk to any of the students coming in case an emergency comes up and they need to go to hospital. They're fully covered for all of the costs involved in that. It's a very comprehensive cover for our students.
What about travel and transportation, Alicia? Are there concessions?
Yeah, there are a lot of options for students, and yes, our students do get concessions. So they get concessions for the bus and also for the train. And in some cities, we also have a tram, and they get student concessions for that as well. I know in Adelaide, and the same within a lot of the other cities, they actually have free transport for the students within the immediate city area, which helps students, get from their accommodation in the city to the campus, which is great, and especially because it's free for them.
There are so many popular cities in Australia, Pratika. So Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide, Perth, Brisbane. So when you shortlisted your program, did you have a difficulty in choosing which city should I go and live in?
Well, not really, because personally I chose the university as a major factor and city as a less factor, because of the reason that I can adapt anywhere, because I was not very city conscious as a person. It's a personal opinion.
Tell us about the weather in Australia, Alicia. Is it a warm Christmas?
It is a warm Christmas. We feel very fortunate in Australia with the weather that we have. So Christmas is usually spent at the beach or swimming at the swimming pool. We really embrace summer at Christmas time.
And what should a student prepare for when they're going for a February intake or a July intake?
So February intake is usually during summer, so it's great during orientation that we spoke about. We try to get outdoors and have a lot of activities and enjoying the weather outside. Our semester 2 intake is in July, which is our colder period. So yeah, it can get quite cool in cities such as Sydney and Melbourne, where it's a little bit warmer if you're studying in cities like Brisbane.
So, well, an Indian student has to be prepared that it's exactly opposite weather. When it's summer over here, it's winter in Australia.
That's correct, yes.
What about sports infrastructure, Alicia?
Australia is a big sporting nation. We take our sporting very seriously. You know, with the Commonwealth Games that are running at the moment, if an Australian family isn't at the Commonwealth Games, they're definitely watching it on TV. There's a lot of sporting infrastructure in Australia. I know in Adelaide we're very lucky to have the Adelaide Oval, where a lot of great cricket games are played, and I guess that's the great thing about the relationship between India and Australia, is that we both love our cricket.
And how does an international student use the facilities that are there?
Yeah, every university in Australia will have a really high standard of facilities for sporting, and there are a lot of sporting clubs that international students can get involved in. And I'd really, really like to let international students know that that's a great way to make friends, is to join, a sporting club or the local cricket club, and it's a really great way for them to immerse themselves in the Australian culture and to make new friends.
Do you play cricket?
Not really, but yes, I do love skating.
Great. So you're looking forward to any co-curricular sports in Australia apart from your education?
Of course. I mean, there should be a let out for everything. I mean, one can't study all the time.
And I think the diversity, the culture, the opportunities itself gives so much exposure to the student than what you would have, received here by studying in India itself.
That's the very reason that I'm going to Australia.
So what about the scholarships and bursaries in Australia? These are burning questions that students and parents have. What is the financial aid available to them?
Yeah, we understand that it's really important for international students to have access to a range of scholarships and bursaries. I know all institutions in Australia have some type of scholarship to offer to international students. An example of the type of scholarships on offer at the University of South Australia is the Vice-Chancellor's International Excellence Scholarship. That's awarded to really high-performing students, and they can receive up to 50% of their fees for the entire duration of their program. Actually, we had 4 students last year from India were offered the Vice-Chancellor's International Excellence Scholarship. And a great thing about that scholarship is that they actually get to become ambassadors for the university, and we have 2 of those students working in our international office representing the university as an ambassador. Another type of common scholarship is an international merit scholarship, and students can receive 25% of their first year of fees.
Well, that is great, because the investment that a family or a student is making obviously is a lot, and whatever bursary they get, that really helps them in the long term. But talking about investment, we have to understand the returns that a student gets by studying in Australia. So Pritika, tell us, what are the returns that you're looking for by investing in Australian education?
Well, I'm particularly going for the HR degree. So yes, I look for global acceptability, global employability. That's my main lookout.
Do you feel that the part-time and the post-study work rights available in Australia are an advantage for you?
Of course. Especially the part-time, that is a tenure when you're not earning anything. So that really helps to cover up at least your living expenses. So that really lessens the burden on you.
So Alicia, Australia allows international students to work part-time.
Yes, so it's a part of the student visa that they automatically have work rights granted to them. So international students can work up to 40 hours per fortnight while their program is in session. During holiday, vacation time, students can work unlimited hours, which we think is great for the international students to help earn money to pay towards living expenses, but also earn really good experience to assist with their degree.
Can they work on campus and off campus both?
Yeah, so there are a lot of jobs available to students. As I mentioned before, the international offices, they often employ international students to assist as ambassadors to represent the university. All universities will have support systems, and we have a career team who actually assist international students to find part-time jobs.
I think that's an interesting thing, and I'm sure students like Pratika who are going to study abroad want to know that a university, for example in Australia, how does it support in placements?
Yeah, we know placements are really important to international students. It's that practical experience that they learn in their degrees that will really help them with their jobs afterwards. So a lot of institutions will have placements and capstone projects built into the degrees to help students get that relevant experience.
Post-study work rights, a very important topic, and a lot of students choose Australia because they get the opportunity to also work there after finishing their education. Tell us more about it.
The post-study work visa is a great opportunity for students. So it enables them to work for between 2 and 4 years after they've completed their degree, as long as they've completed 2 years of study. And it enables them to gain relevant work experience in Australia, and that combined with their degree is great for their career outcomes once they've finished.
So Pratika, do you think that the post-study work rights is another factor which attracted you towards studying in Australia?
Yeah, of course, it's a great opportunity to work somewhere in a new country, new place. It gives you a lot of great experiences and develops you as a great individual as well.
Yeah, but that is after completion of your program. So the best part is that you have to do well in your program to be able to get the part-time and the post-study work rights. So is statement of purpose an important document for Australia admissions?
It is. It's really important for the student visa application. So our Department of Home Affairs, which is our immigration department, they require it in order to assess a student visa application. So it's really important to outline why you've chosen Australia, why you've chosen the university, and why you've chosen the degree that you want to study. And it really needs to show the Department of Home Affairs that you've really put a lot of research and a lot of effort into understanding what you're going to be studying in Australia.
So you mean to say the student has to articulate a statement of purpose to show the genuineness?
Exactly. Yeah, so it really needs to be in the student's own words, and it really needs to show the Department of Home Affairs that that student is genuine about studying in Australia.
So what are the factors that a university would check to determine that the student is a genuine student?
So there are a lot of important factors that the university needs to look at. So age is an important factor, and so is degree progression. So we really need to see that the student's degree that they've chosen is actually really going to help them in their career outcomes when they return back to India once they've completed their degree.
While we see that the Australian government is very particular about the student's background and validation of the circumstances and genuineness, we also see that the visa success rate for Indian students have been very high, which means that Australia is attracting quality students from India?
Yes, definitely. I think the universities have been working very closely with education counsellors such as IDP to make sure we're recruiting and attracting the right students who really want to study in Australia and who really want to get a quality degree to return home to get great career outcomes.
Now, another question, Alicia, about the requirements. We also know that there's an English language test like IELTS that one has to appear for. And there are no other examinations, which is unlike other destinations. So which makes Australia more easy and competitive to apply for. Do you think that it is good that Australia has minimum requirements from an international student, or would you say otherwise?
No, definitely. We already ask so much of international students to prove that they meet the academic requirements and the English requirements. So we try to keep it as streamlined as possible for students.
So Pratika, you're going to study there. The format of the education will be different. The assessment methods would be different. Are you aware how the examination is going to be?
Yes, I am aware. It is all listed on the particular university website, so that's really helpful.
Would you like to explain us, Alicia, about the format of the education and format of the assessment? Because in India, it's more of a pen and paper test.
So assessment usually comprises of a mixture of assignments which are submitted online, as well as end of semester exams and tests, and also practical examination as well.
In India, we're so used to the pen and paper test, and now you're talking about online assignments. So how does a student from India adapt to this format?
Yeah, so it's really an informative process. So we need to ensure that universities in Australia educate students on the best way to submit assessment pieces. And I guess, with the advances in technology, we're really moving to more of an online platform, which actually makes it easier for students to submit their assessment pieces.
So when you think about studying in Australia and working part-time and doing your examinations, do you see yourself multitasking? Are there any inhibitions that come to your mind?
Well, of course, yes, multitasking is needed because obviously I'll be studying, I'll be doing my part-time, so obviously there needs to be a great amount of good time management.
I think that's an important advice that we should give the students, because here they're taken care of. So you need to have a discipline and time management and make best use of the opportunities that are there for you. Tell us, Pritika, in detail how IDP or a counsellor has helped you from beginning to the end.
Well, firstly, the counsellors, they brief you about the country and the options available. They give you, obviously they'll take your interest into consideration and give you the best available options, which should also align with your previous academic records. So then once you personally reach to a conclusion, then they help you go through those particular universities and obviously attain an acceptance.
So Australia has some top-ranked leading universities in the world. Did you research on them before applying?
Yes, of course I did. Australia has really great institutes, most importantly which are more research-based, which I think is a very great thing if you're looking it into in a very academic perspective. So yes, I researched a lot about a lot of universities, especially about the University of Melbourne, University of Sydney and University of Queensland, and also about the Australian National University.
So what would be your advice to new students who are preparing to study in Australia?
Well, my main advice is you should be receptive, you should be, in an acceptive mode to new things, to diverse culture. And obviously, without saying it goes, you have to be good academically, you have to be really active in the university activities so that, you really gain an experience apart from just academics.
That's great. So you seem to be mentally very well prepared for your next journey. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Alicia, to sum up, would there be any advice to Indian students that you would like to give?
Definitely. I think the best advice to give to Indian students is they really need to embrace their time in Australia. They really need to make the most of the opportunities that present themselves. As I've said, Australia is a very welcoming country and there will be a lot of new opportunities to meet new people, build relationships and network, and international students, especially from India, really need to take advantage of that because it's going to help them with their future career.
So Pritika, why did you choose IDP as your chosen partner?
Well, IDP was one of the listed licensed consultants on the university website. So that basically initiated me coming here. But obviously the experience, it just made it more easier, and it made me, it ensured myself that I had taken the right decision.
Great, thank you. And that is what IDP takes pride in helping students, in making them comfortable and guiding them through the entire process. And IDP is a world leader in student placement and also a co-owner of IELTS. We're actually co-owned by the Australian universities. So we take pride in guiding and helping students. Thank you for choosing us, and thank you also for being on the show and giving so much information to new students that will help them. Thank you, Alicia, for being a partner today for the first session of Australia Talk Show. We find this information so valuable, and I think the students who had queries and questions about studying in Australia, they have actually had a lot of information today from this show.
Thank you. It's nice to know that I've made a difference, and thank you for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you all for joining us today on the show. I hope the episode has really helped you to know more about studying in Australia. We'll be back again soon with a new episode and a new guest on Study Abroad Insights with IDP. This is Pratibha Sen. See you again.